Welcome to the latest edition of Kernels from the Cornfield. No husk, no hulls, no shucks. News with a dash of commentary to spice up your fare for Friday, July 11th, 2014. Border crisis. No change in positions on the humanitarian crisis and issue of illegal immigration along the southern border. Heat is getting hotter on both the White House and the Congress to take action. More and more information is coming out that the flood of children was expected for months and perhaps years. The government, both executive and legislative branches, seem to have ignored the growing epidemic of children coming from Central America. They're voting. The saying goes, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. At this moment, Mama Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel, isn't too pleased with the U.S. of A. Any rational person knows that governments across the globe spy on each other, whether friend or foe. But the unwritten code is you don't get caught. After last year's revelation that the National Security Agency, NSA, was listening in on Merkel's private phone calls and other world leaders, you would think the American intelligence community would have taken greater caution. Apparently, not so. The discovery of covert operations in the Rhineland has led to the top U.S. spy being kicked out of the country. So far, neither President Barack Obama nor the White House has reached out to Merkel to try and smooth the ruffled feathers. Drafted. Yes, I know, the U.S. has maintained an all-volunteer army for a long time now. But apparently, the Selective Service is still trying to draft World War I-era teens who face jail time if they don't register or report to their local draft board. In a case that is too strange to not be true, seems the Selective Service sent out 14,000 notices to men born between 1893 and 1897. The agency says it was human error caused by not entering the correct century into the computer system and only the last 2 digits of the years in question. Your tax dollars at work. Gotta love it. Redraw that map. A Florida judge has thrown out a redistricting plan of congressional districts. 2 of the 27 districts, one represented by a Republican and one by a Democrat, were found wanting. The Florida legislature must go back to the drawing board after the judge determined that Republicans conspired to manipulate district boundaries. It is not expected that the new map will be ready in time for the 2014 midterm elections. Suing the president. Speaker of the House John Boehner is following through with plans for the House of Representatives to sue President Barack Obama in federal court for abuse of authority. It was announced last night the focus would be on action taken delaying the business mandate in the president's signature domestic legislation, the Affordable Care Act. Democrats and supporters of the president are saying it is a political stunt to turn up the base for the upcoming fall elections. Democrats also say that Republicans are being hypocritical of taking on the president for use of executive action. They note the president has signed fewer executive orders than any president since Grover Cleveland. Republicans and opponents of the president say it is not the number of executive orders, nor do they contest the authority of the president to take executive action. According to Republicans, it is the substance of the executive orders, which is an attempt to bypass Congress and to rewrite legislation, which is exclusively the authority of the legislative branch. Democrats say that Republicans are upset that the president did what they asked in delaying the employer mandate in the ACA. Republicans claim the president exceeded his authority by doing it without consent of Congress. The Republicans did call for the president to delay both the individual and employer mandates. The president said no. Republicans say they were ready to pass the delay legislation, but the White House said no delay. A few months later, the president, by executive order, delayed the employer mandate. It is such action that Boehner says the president is overreaching and rewriting law. I agree that the president has the authority to use executive orders. I agree that the number of EOs has been relatively small. I also agree that it is the substance of the EOs which are in question. I do believe that, as Boehner said, the president acts only when it suits his personal or political aims, and does circumvent the legislative branch and steps over clear-cut lines. Lebanon next. A rocket was fired into Israel from Lebanon overnight. This brings new fears that the undeclared war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, along the southern edge of the country, may soon turn into a two-front battle. Lebanon is situated to Israel's north and borders Syria on the east. Lebanon is also home to Hezbollah, with whom Israel was in a bruising conflict just a few years ago. Hezbollah, unlike Hamas, has much better trained soldiers and more sophisticated and more accurate missiles and equipment. A bone for sports hounds. Though not a sports enthusiast, I could not do this edition without noting that King LeBron James is going home to Cleveland, Ohio. The basketball star with 2 championships in the basket announced today that he would be returning to the Cavaliers rather than re-signing with the Miami Heat. That's what caught my attention for Friday, July 11, 2014. Tune in Monday for another episode of Kernels from the Cornfield. I'm Mark Ivy. Good evening.